Hello and good morning. Dan Alasso here, making history. It's day 45 of my retrenchment journey. I'm wearing my BSU t-shirt. My daughter had absconded with it, but I noticed as my wife was folding their laundry this morning that it was in that pile. And I said, hey, maybe I will wear that ironically for my book club meeting and for my video. And she said, don't be ironic. You were a college professor. How many people get to do that, even for a little while? And she's right. That's a good point. And I appreciate the insight. When I actually met my wife, I was a retired high-tech guy. I wasn't working, and I wasn't really interested in working in technology again. So she suggested when we moved to Mankato that I should go over to the university there and take some classes, like I had at the University of Minnesota when we had lived in the Twin Cities. I went, and ultimately I got a master's degree in Latin American history, and I practiced writing in workshops with novelist Terry Davis. And then when we failed to live in South America after trying and we moved to New Hampshire, I went back to my original alma mater, UMass Amherst. And I went there to take a biography writing seminar because I was planning to write a biography. Then I sort of forced my way into the PhD program. They had actually kind of rejected me at first, but I wouldn't take no for an answer. At UMass, I finished my coursework and my comprehensive exams fairly quickly, and then I had my dissertation prospectus accepted in 2012, and we moved to northern Minnesota. I was a teaching assistant for a while I was there, and then before I left, I got a chance to teach my own course in the Honors College, which was a good experience. And then when we moved back to northern Minnesota, I taught American environmental history online for them for a couple of years, and I wrote the open textbook for that course. And I did that while I was ABD, while I was working on my dissertation, or theoretically working on my dissertation. I wasn't really working that hard because I had sort of been advised by my main advisor to slow down. In retrospect, I think that advice had sort of been self-serving for the person who gave it to me. She was preparing to leave UMass and didn't need the distraction. So I got a new dissertation chair, and after a health scare convinced me that I really should finish this thing, I did finish it, and I completed Peppermint Kings in 2017, and then it became a book in the Yale University Press Agrarian Studies series in the summer of 2020. Just after I had finished that dissertation and had it accepted and I was finally a PhD, I got an email from a friend in Mankato who had been my historiography professor, alerting me to the fact that BSU might be looking for a historian and encouraging me to get in touch with them. Now, I had been sending applications to schools all over the US when I was ABD looking for a teaching position. The competition, even in 2017, was insane. And I suspected a lot of the times that there was probably an internal candidate. There was probably someone who had been working there, adjuncting and paying their dues, but the school was forced to do a national search anyway. So it's hard competing against those odds. I was extremely lucky that a spot opened up for me at the university just 5 miles down the road from my home, as soon as I had an actual PhD. What are the odds of that? I taught at BSU for 6 years. At first, I had to scramble a little bit because the person that I was taking over for, due to illness and then her retirement, had the non-Western world portfolio and had taught courses like History of World Religions and Women in World History. Now, I've taught both of those courses a couple times now, as well as East Asian history, Russia, Southeast Asia, and decolonization. I've also taught Latin American history and modern world history and environmental history, and finally, I began teaching the U.S. history surveys as well. Along the way, I also had an opportunity to design my own experimental courses, like the Gilded Age and Populism, History of High Tech, and Intro to Equity. At BSU, I worked with two talented and generous historians who were always supportive and who really made me a full partner in the program, even when I was just a temporary emergency instructor for this woman who was ill and who they thought might be coming back. As I developed an interest in open education and creating OERs, free textbooks, they gradually got on board. Now, in this crisis, I'm not sure how they're going to keep the history program going once there are only two of them, but I do hope they manage it. So, to conclude, without BSU, the next greatest thing wouldn't have happened, said my wife. She's talking about the next thing that I'm going to do after this retrenchment. And I think that teaching at BSU has been a very important and valuable step along that path, even if BSU turns out not to be the place I retire from ultimately, which for a while I thought it was going to be. It's exactly the type of platform that I knew I needed when I wanted to communicate directly with the world via the web, when I wanted to write a biography. And I talked to an agent and he said, well, you can send me fiction all day long, but if you send me nonfiction, I need to know what your platform is. So I knew I needed that. Now I have it. So it's time to get busy. So thank you to my wife, Steph, for pointing this out to me, to Chris Corley in Mankato for letting me know there was a job at Bemidji back in 2017, and to Brendan McManus and John Ellis for being such great colleagues. And I don't know where this is going to take me exactly, but I will continue talking about it and reporting on it here. So thanks very much for listening, and I will see you again